Chapter 1. Love at First Scent. I was not looking for love. I was looking for coffee. Important distinction. I had woken up late. My silk sheets were tangled around my legs in a way that suggested betrayal, and my favorite shirt had a microscopic crease on the sleeve that absolutely ruined my mood. My driver had apologized 3 times for traffic, which only made me angrier because traffic is a concept that should not apply to me. So no, I was not looking for love. Then I walked into the cafe, and everything went wrong. The scent hit me before the door even closed behind me. Warm, clean, alpha, not aggressive, not sharp, just steady. Like sunlight through a window you forgot was open. Like someone who drank cheap coffee and survived on stubbornness instead of money. I stopped walking. Actually, I froze. Completely. 1 foot still in the air. My sunglasses slid down my nose. "Oh," I said out loud. The barista blinked at me. "Sir." I inhaled again. There. Across the cafe. 3rd table from the window. Back hunched slightly. Shoulders tense like he expected the world to kick him. Dark hair, messy in a way that was not styled but absolutely should be illegal. He was wearing a jacket that had seen better days and staring into his cup like it had personally disappointed him. An alpha. My alpha. I didn't know his name yet, but that was a minor, temporary problem. My heart started beating faster. My skin warmed. My omega instincts sat up like a dog that had just heard the word walk. My instincts whispered. I grabbed the edge of the counter to steady myself. "Sir, are you okay?" The barista said again, louder. "No, but that's unrelated," I said. I took another breath, deeper this time, and my knees almost gave out. His scent wrapped around me like it had been waiting, like it recognized me. Love at first scent was real. I would fight anyone who said otherwise. I ordered something without hearing myself speak. The barista handed me a cup. I did not remember paying. I floated. I drifted. I was guided by destiny and pheromones and a sudden, terrifying certainty. I sat at the table directly behind him. I did not ask. I leaned forward slightly and inhaled again. Perfect. Not fancy. Not refined. Not like the polished, overdressed alphas my family paraded in front of me at parties. He smelled tired. Honest. Human. I wanted to bite him. I wanted to marry him. I wanted him to stop slouching because it offended me personally. He shifted in his seat. Good. He felt it. He turned his head just a little, like someone checking if they were being stared at, and our eyes met. Brown. Soft. Confused. Oh no. Cute. He blinked. Hi. I smiled at him. I am very good at smiling. It has made people sign contracts they did not fully read. "Hello, you smell nice," I said. His entire face went red. "I'm sorry, what?" he said immediately. I said, "You smell nice." I repeated patiently, That's not something you just say to strangers," he said, looking around like someone might arrest me. I tilted my head. "Why not? Because it's creepy? Is it?" "Yes," I hummed, unconvinced. "I disagree." He stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Several people looked over. I smiled at them too. They looked away. "I should go, I'm late," he said. "You're drinking coffee. That suggests you were already late," I pointed out. He stared at me. "Are you flirting with me?" "Yes." "That's not better." I leaned closer. He smelled even stronger up close, like his control was slipping just from being near me. That did wonderful things to my mood. "I'm Lucian. What's your name?" I asked. He hesitated. "Evan. Evan." I repeated it in my head like a prayer. "Well, nice to meet you, Evan. We're mates," I said brightly. He laughed. A short, startled sound. "We're what?" "Mates," I said again. "Future husbands. Possibly very soon." "I don't think that's how that works." "It is for me." He took a step back. "Okay. You're insane. I've been told." "I'm leaving, please don't follow me," he said, grabbing his jacket. I gasped. Loudly. "I would never." He left. I followed him. Discreetly. Which is to say, not discreetly at all. He walked fast. I walked faster. He looked over his shoulder twice, panic rising off him in waves that made my omega purr. He turned a corner. I turned the same corner. He stopped abruptly, spinning around. Are you following me? I clasped my hands behind my back. Yes. That's not better. I like to be honest. You can't just decide I'm your mate because of a smell. Watch me. He stared at me for a long second, then rubbed his face. I'm tired. I work 2 jobs. I do not have time for this. That's fine. I have plenty of time for both of us, I said. He opened his mouth, closed it, took a deep breath. Please go away, he said very carefully. I frowned. He really meant it. Interesting. All right, for now, I said softly. He blinked. For now. I stepped back, giving him space. He relaxed just a fraction. That was good to know. I'll see you later, Evan. I didn't give you my address. I smiled. You will. He walked away, shoulders tight, confusion radiating off him like static. I watched until he disappeared into the crowd. Then I squealed. Quietly, with dignity, I floated back to my car, my entire future rearranging itself in my head. I was going to need flowers, probably lawyers, maybe a nursery. When I got home, I burst into the living room where my brothers were spread out like territorial animals, cleaning guns and arguing about logistics. I found him, I announced. They all looked up. The mate, my future husband. I clarified. Silence. Then Mateo sighed. Another one? This one smelled right. Run his name, I said. What's his name? Evan, brown eyes. Tired. Drinks cheap coffee like it's a personality trait, I said. They were already taking notes. I smiled, heart full, body humming. Mine, I thought again. And soon he would know it too. Chapter 2. Congratulations, you're owned. I woke up glowing. Not metaphorically, literally glowing. My omega was humming under my skin like it had discovered purpose. I stretched lazily across my bed, silk sheets sliding down my waist, and smiled at the ceiling. Today was important. Today was the day Evan became mine. I rang the bell for breakfast and background reports at the same time. Mateo appeared first, holding a tablet. Nico followed with coffee. Luca had a gun, but that was just his personality. Well, tell me everything, I demanded, sitting up. Mateo scrolled. Evan Reed, 27. Alpha. No family worth mentioning. Rents a 1-bedroom apartment. Works at a mid-level logistics firm. Overworked. Underpaid. Has student loans. I gasped. Disgusting. He drinks cheap coffee, Nico added helpfully. I know, it's charming, I said dreamily. I hopped out of bed. Fix it. Mateo raised an eyebrow. Fix what? Everything. I want him comfortable, secure, stress-free, maybe a little confused, I said. They stared at me. Oh, so we're buying his life? Luca asked. Yes. How much? I waved a hand. However much it costs to make him stop frowning. They left. I bathed. I dressed. I selected flowers personally. Not roses. Roses were too aggressive. I chose something soft and expensive and vaguely romantic without being threatening. By the time I finished breakfast, Evan's entire life belonged to me. I clapped my hands. Excellent. Let's go. We arrived at his building mid-morning. It was sad. Beige. Narrow. The kind of place that smelled like old carpet and resignation. I wrinkled my nose. This will not do, I muttered. Mateo knocked. There was shuffling inside. A yawn. The door cracked open. Evan stood there in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair sticking up in a way that made my chest ache. He looked exhausted, and beautiful, and absolutely unprepared for the fact that I now owned his landlord. Yes? It's you, he said, then froze. Good morning, I brought flowers, I said brightly. He stared at the bouquet, then at me, then at the 3 armed men behind me. Why are there guns? Luca shifted slightly, the weapon catching the light. Morning. Evan swallowed. I'd like to court you, I said, holding out the flowers and a neatly bound contract. He laughed. came out thin. This is a joke. No, it's a proposal, I said. I'm not signing anything. That's okay, you don't have to sign right now, I said. He tried to close the door. It did not close. Why won't my door close? He demanded. Because your building is mine, I said gently. He stared at me. My boss called me an hour ago, promoted me, tripled my salary. Then my bank sent me an email saying my debt was cleared. He said slowly. Yes, I did it, I said proudly. His hands shook. Why? Because you smelled right, I said like it explained everything. It doesn't, I pouted. You're being difficult. I'm saying no, I nodded. I hear you. I don't think you do. Behind me, Mateo cleared his throat. The sound of metal shifted. Evan's eyes flicked sideways. He went very still. I'm not threatening you. They're just present, I said quickly. This is insane. Love often is. I leaned in slightly. His scent spiked, anxiety sharp and warm, and my omega purred like it was being praised. Just one date, if you hate it, I'll reconsider, I coaxed. He stared at me like he was deciding whether to scream or faint. One date, he said finally. I beamed. The date was perfect. For me. I took him to a private restaurant overlooking the city. He sat stiffly across from me, hands folded in his lap like he was waiting for interrogation. You don't have to look so tense. I'm not going to eat you, I said, sipping wine. That's not reassuring. I might kiss you, I added. He choked on his water. I smiled. He blushed. It was working. I talked. He listened. I ordered food he'd never tried. He pretended not to enjoy it. I watched the way his shoulders relaxed despite himself. You don't have to buy me things, he muttered. I want to. That's not the same. I leaned forward, resting my chin in my hand. Evan, I like you. I intend to keep you. This is me being polite about it. He stared at me for a long time. You're terrifying, he said quietly. I tilted my head. But you haven't actually hurt me, he admitted. I smiled softly. Give me time, I said playfully. He snorted despite himself. Victory. When I dropped him home, he paused at his door. This doesn't mean I'm yours, he said. I stepped closer, inhaling deeply. It does. You just haven't realized it yet, I said gently. He went inside without another word. I floated all the way back to the car. First date accomplished. Next, persistence. Chapter 3. Aggressive courtship. Courtship, I decided, was an art. And like all art, it required money, persistence, and a total disregard for feedback. Evan did not understand this yet. That was fine. I was patient, sort of. Our second date happened 3 days after the first, which was generous of me because I had wanted it to happen immediately. I allowed him time to miss me, or panic about me. Both counted. I sent a car for him. He did not get in the car. I sent another car. He texted me, please stop sending cars. I sent a helicopter. That one might have been excessive, but in my defense, Mateo had already arranged it. By the time Evan arrived at the private cinema I'd rented out, he looked like he'd aged 5 years. You can't just do this, he said the moment he saw me. This place is closed. For the public, not for us. I corrected, popping popcorn into my mouth. It's just us. Yes, that's the point, I said happily. The theater was empty, plush seats reclining, the screen already glowing softly. I'd chosen a ridiculous romantic comedy with explosions and a happy ending. Evan glanced at the title and groaned. Is this about a billionaire who kidnaps a baker? Reluctantly courts, pay attention. It's educational, I corrected. We sat together. Well, I sat close. Evan sat stiffly, a careful inch away from me like proximity itself might be contagious. I leaned in anyway. He smelled incredible, better than before, familiar already. My chest ached with it. Stop sniffing me, he muttered. I'm not sniffing, I'm breathing. I lied, inhaling deeply. On my neck. Yes. He turned red. Again. It was adorable. Halfway through the movie, his shoulder brushed mine. He stiffened. I relaxed. That seemed fair. When I stole a quick kiss to his cheek, he nearly jumped out of his seat. Lucian, I smiled sweetly. You didn't say no. That doesn't mean yes. That's what playing hard to get sounds like. He stared at me. I am not playing. I hummed, unconvinced, and stole another kiss just below his eye. His skin was warm. He smelled flustered now, the alpha edge of him sharpening. I melted. After the movie, I took him to dinner. Rooftop, candlelight, string lights floating like stars. The city spread out below us, glittering and small. This is ridiculous. I can't afford this, Evan said, staring at the table. You don't have to. I can afford you, I said. That's not romantic. I reached across the table and laced my fingers through his. He yanked his hand back like he'd been burned. I don't want to be bought, he said, frustration bleeding into his voice. I frowned. Truly, genuinely. I'm not buying you, I'm investing, I said. That's worse. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Evan, listen to me. I want you, not your job, not your apartment. You. Then stop using money for that. I considered that. Then I waved the waiter over and ordered dessert. Evan buried his face in his hands. On our third date, I dressed him. Not literally. I wasn't allowed yet. But I sent clothes to his apartment. Tailored. Soft fabrics. Dark colors that made his eyes warmer. He showed up wearing them anyway. You wore them, I said smugly. I didn't have anything else clean, he snapped. I leaned in, nose brushing his jaw, inhaling deeply. You smell even better in my clothes. Stop saying things like that. I kissed his cheek. He turned pink. Progress. I took him shopping after that. He hated it. I loved it. Do you like this? I asked, holding up a coat worth more than his monthly rent. No, I bought it. He scowled at me. I kissed his cheek again. He huffed but didn't pull away this time. Every date went like this. He complained. I planned harder. He said no. I heard maybe. He blushed. I won. I leaned too close. I brushed my fingers against his sleeve. I rested my head on his shoulder without asking. Each time he reacted, but each time he stayed. You're impossible, he told me one night as we stood waiting for an elevator. I'm devoted, I corrected, pressing a kiss just below his ear. He shivered. I smiled. Hard to get, indeed. By the end of the week, my brothers were placing bets. He hasn't run, Nico said. He's still breathing, Matteo added. He blushes when Lucian breathes, Luca observed. I preened. See? He likes me, I said. Outside, Evan sneezed, entirely unaware that his resistance was being misinterpreted as romance. Soon, I thought, very soon, he would stop pretending. Chapter 4. The Gunpoint Kiss. By the fourth week of courting, I had reached a conclusion. Evan was stalling. Not because he didn't like me. That was impossible. People who didn't like me did not blush every time I leaned too close or smell like confusion and longing whenever I smiled at them. They also didn't answer every message within 3 minutes and then pretend they hadn't been waiting. No, Evan was clearly afraid of how much he liked me, which meant it was time to help him. I invited him over, to my penthouse. He tried very hard to say no. I don't think that's a good idea, he said over the phone. His voice was tight, like he was already bracing for trouble. Last time your brother watched me like I was a suspicious package. That's just how Luca relaxes. There will be snacks, I said. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing, probably pacing. What kind of snacks? He asked cautiously. I smiled. The good kind. That tells me nothing. Exactly. Another pause. Then a resigned sigh. You're doing this on purpose. Always. He showed up 30 minutes later. Not late. Evan was never late. His coat was pulled tight around himself, scarf wound too carefully, like armor. He hesitated just inside the door, eyes flicking around the space. The windows, the city, the art, the fact that the couch probably cost more than his car. This place makes me nervous, he muttered. You're safe. I live here. I said brightly. That's why I'm nervous. Behind him, Nico took his coat without comment. Matteo offered him a drink. Evan declined with a polite, strained smile and followed me to the couch like a man approaching an interrogation. He sat on the very edge. I sat next to him, very next to him. Our shoulders brushed. He stiffened. So, how was your day? I asked. Long, very long. Meetings. Paperwork. A man yelled at me about zoning laws. He said immediately. I leaned in. That sounds tragic. He leaned away. Lucien. I leaned in again. Lucien, he warned, voice lower now. I tilted my head, studying his face. He looked tired, stressed, still beautiful. His scent was warm but tangled, like he was fighting himself every second he was near me. You haven't kissed me yet, I said casually. He choked on absolutely nothing. What? It's been weeks, people kiss by now. I continued. We are not people, you own half the city, he said. That's not relevant. It is extremely relevant. I scooted closer. Our knees touched. He went very still, like prey pretending it couldn't be seen. I want you to kiss me, I said. No, I blinked. No, I'm not ready, he repeated, firmer this time. That stopped me. I frowned. He'd always been flustered, embarrassed, resistant in a soft way. This was different. This was solid, determined, a line drawn carefully and held. Something twisted uncomfortably in my chest. You like me, I said. He looked away. That's not the point. It is to me. I don't want to be pushed. I don't want this to feel like something I owe you, he said quietly. I sat back, crossing my arms. I did not pout. I sulked with dignity. Behind us, I heard a subtle shift of weight. Luca had been leaning against the wall the entire time, pretending to scroll on his phone. Now he straightened slightly, casually, too casually. He rested his gun against Evan's shoulder like it was a friendly reminder and not a lethal weapon. Just a kiss, for our baby brother, Luca said mildly. Evan froze. The scent in the room spiked sharp. Fear, anger, defiance. I spun around. Luca, what? He looks undecided. Luca shrugged. I said no, Evan snapped, voice shaking despite his effort to keep it steady. I turned fully toward him. His eyes were wide, breath shallow. That was not what I wanted. Not even a little. Luca, stop that, I said sharply. The gun lifted immediately. Evan exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. I shifted closer again, slower this time. Careful. I won't make you. I just need to know. Know what? He asked, wary. If you're really saying no, or if you're just scared, I said. He hesitated, then gave a humorless laugh. Both. That felt honest. I respected honesty. I reached up, hesitated, then brushed my thumb lightly against his jaw. He flinched, then stilled, eyes locked on mine. Just a kiss, you can stop any time. I promise, I said softly. He searched my face like he was looking for a trick. After a moment, he sighed. Fine one, and then you stop asking. He muttered. I smiled so hard my face hurt. He leaned in stiffly, lips brushing mine for exactly half a second. It was awkward, panicked, completely wrong, and perfect. Something in me melted instantly. My omega purred. My heart stuttered. Warmth spread through me like sunlight. I sighed into the kiss without meaning to, and then Evan kissed me back. Not much, not confidently, just a tiny, startled pressure, like he'd realized too late that he wanted to. He pulled back immediately, eyes wide. I didn't mean to, he said. I stared at him. The room was very quiet. Luca cleared his throat and looked at the ceiling. Matteo suddenly found his phone fascinating. Nico turned his back with the world's least convincing attempt at discretion. I leaned forward again, resting my forehead against Evan's. That was very real, I said dreamily. He looked like he might cry or punch me, possibly both. We're not talking about it, he said quickly. I'm talking about it, I replied. No, we're pretending that didn't happen, he insisted. I smiled, still buzzing. All right, for now. I agreed. He stood up so fast he nearly tripped. I'm leaving. Of course, I'll see you tomorrow, I said sweetly. He paused at the door, hand on the handle. This doesn't change anything, he said. I inhaled, catching the lingering warmth of his scent, the echo of that accidental kiss. It changes everything, I replied. He left without answering. I collapsed back onto the couch, clutching a pillow to my chest, heart racing. I had been kissed, properly, sort of. Progress, I decided, was undeniable. And next time he wouldn't pull away. Chapter 5. Heat Disaster. I woke up screaming. Not metaphorically. Actually screaming, voice raw and hoarse. The sound tearing out of me before I was even fully awake. Something was wrong. Very wrong. My skin felt too tight, too hot, like my body had shrunk overnight and forgotten to tell me. Heat rolled through me in waves, unbearable and sharp. My sheets were soaked. My throat burned. My omega was screaming bloody murder inside my chest, frantic and furious. I bolted upright and immediately burst into tears. This is unacceptable. This is not on the schedule. I had plans. I sobbed to the empty room. My heat was early. Early, dramatic, and incredibly rude. I slapped the emergency button beside my bed with shaking fingers. Within seconds, my door flew open and all three of my brothers stormed in. Guns half raised, eyes sharp and scanning like they expected an intruder instead of a hormonal disaster. He's crying, Nico said, lowering his weapon first. I'm dying, get Evan. I corrected, voice wobbling. Mateo grimaced. Lucien. I said get Evan. I don't think that's a good idea. I am literally melting from the inside out. Luca pinched the bridge of his nose. You're definitely in heat. Yes. Thank you for that stunning medical insight. I snapped. They exchanged looks. Long ones. Luca sighed. I'll get him. But if this goes badly, this is on you. I accept those terms, I said, already dissolving back into the pillows. By the time Evan arrived, the penthouse smelled like chaos. My pheromones were everywhere. Thick, sweet, desperate. They clung to the walls, soaked into the furniture, wrapped the air in something needy and unbearable. I had migrated to the couch at some point, curled into a shaking, miserable ball under 3 blankets. I hate this. Everything hurts. My bones feel offended. I whimpered. I brought water, Nico offered weakly. Throw it at me. See if it helps, I said. The door opened. Evan froze halfway inside. Oh, he said faintly. His scent hit me like salvation. I bolted upright and crawled toward him without dignity, blankets trailing behind me like a shedding animal. There you are, don't go. If you go, I will perish, I gasped, grabbing his sleeve. I wasn't planning to. Lucien, what's happening? He stopped abruptly, eyes blown wide, breath catching. Heat, I said tearfully. A bad one, an unfair one. I would like to file a complaint with nature. I told you to have doctors on standby. They're outside, so are the brothers. You're inside. That means you're mine. I waved vaguely toward the hallway. That's not how. He sucked in a breath, sharp and helpless. Oh God. Yes, I agreed. It's terrible. I clung to him, burying my face in his chest like it was the only solid thing left in the world. He went rigid, then slowly, reluctantly, wrapped his arms around me to keep me from sliding to the floor. Don't leave, please. Everything smells wrong without you, I begged. He swore under his breath. This is a trap. This is biological coercion, he muttered. Probably, but you smell like home, I said, nodding miserably. That was when he started shaking. Lucien, your pheromones are everywhere. This isn't right, he said through clenched teeth. I know, I'm sorry. I can't turn it off, I said quietly. Outside the room, I could hear my brothers arguing in hushed, tense voices. Luca barking orders. Mateo suggesting protocols. Nico loudly declaring that this was the worst day of his life. Inside, Evan was trapped. He paced. I followed him like a ghost, dragging myself after him, fingers catching his sleeve, his wrist, the hem of his jacket. Sit, I demanded weakly. No. Lie down. Absolutely not. Hold me. He stopped. His shoulders slumped. Damn it, he whispered. He sat, pulling me into his lap with shaking hands, careful like I might shatter if he moved too fast. I curled against him instantly, sighing in relief as the worst of the pain dulled. Better, I mumbled. This is bad, he said hoarsely. I know. You're crying. I'm dramatic. Despite himself, he let out a shaky laugh. My omega purred, pleased with that small victory. I pressed my forehead to his neck and inhaled. Deep, greedy, he groaned. Lucian, he warned. Just breathing. You told me to stop sniffing. Not breathing, I said. That was before you turned into a biological weapon. I kissed his jaw without thinking. He froze. Then, like the decision made itself, he kissed me back. It wasn't planned. It wasn't graceful. It was messy and desperate, driven by panic, scent, and weeks of restraint snapping all at once. My breath hitched, a soft, broken sound I didn't recognize as my own. He pulled back, breathing hard. We can't. I know, but don't go, I said, fingers twisting in his shirt. I'm not going, this isn't choice anymore, he snapped. I looked up at him, tears streaking my face, heat blazing through me. Then stay, and hate me later, I whispered. That broke him. He kissed me again, deeper, hands trembling as they held my face like he was afraid I'd disappear. My omega surged, relief and joy tangling painfully. I pressed closer. He let out a low, strained sound that went straight through me. I'm sorry, he said, like a confession. I'm not, I replied. What followed was chaos. Blankets tangled, words blurred, touches clumsy and emotional, more desperate than deliberate. Nothing elegant, nothing planned. Just heat and need and two people trapped by biology and very bad timing. At some point, he bit me. Not hard, careful, like he was terrified of hurting me. I gasped. That's mine. I panted. He pulled back instantly. I didn't mean. I know it's perfect, I said, dizzy and blissed out. When I woke later, wrapped in silk sheets and Evan's jacket, the world was quiet. My heat had broken. Evan was gone. I panicked for exactly 10 seconds before Mateo informed me that Evan was locked in the guest room, pacing like a feral animal. I smiled. 3 weeks later, the doctor confirmed it. I burst into the brothers' meeting room waving the report. I won. I'm pregnant, I announced. Silence. Then chaos. Nico whooped. Luca crossed himself. Mateo stared at the ceiling like this was somehow God's fault. I hugged the paper to my chest, glowing. Evan was going to be furious. Couldn't wait. Chapter 6. Baby trapped. Pregnancy suited me. I say that objectively. My skin glowed. My hair behaved. My omega purred constantly like it had swallowed a small sun. I woke up every morning feeling like the universe had finally acknowledged my superiority. Evan did not agree. This is a nightmare, he said for the 4th time that morning, standing in my kitchen with his hands braced on the counter like the cabinets might attack him. This is an actual biological hostage situation. I reclined dramatically on the couch, one hand on my stomach, the other holding a glass of juice someone had placed in my hand without asking. Don't be cruel. The baby can hear you, I said. He turned slowly. It's the size of a grape. A very sensitive grape. Nico leaned over the back of the couch. I like the grape. Luca nodded solemnly. The grape is powerful. Evan pinched the bridge of his nose. I hate all of you. My brothers adored the grape. They hovered constantly. They brought me snacks at all hours. They argued over baby names like this was a hostile corporate takeover instead of a pregnancy. Dawn is traditional, Luca said seriously, pulling up a list on his tablet. We are not naming my child Dawn, Evan snapped. Why not? It commands respect. Nico asked. It commands prison time. What about Salvatore? Mateo offered. No. Antonio? No. Lucian Jr., Nico said brightly. I gasped. Absolutely not. They kept going anyway. I watched all of it with delight. Evan had moved into the penthouse 2 days after the confirmation. He insisted it was temporary. I insisted it was destiny. The paperwork sided with me. He was officially listed everywhere as my alpha. I showed him the documents over breakfast. He choked on his toast. I didn't agree to this title, he croaked. You bit me and impregnate me. I reminded him, sipping my tea. That was an accident, and your brothers are the ones who trapped me there with you. The law doesn't care. He stared at the paper like it had personally betrayed him. I can't believe this. Yes, you can. You're very capable, I said gently. He glared at me. Stop smiling like that. I'm pregnant. I'm allowed, I said. Despite his outrage, Evan was attentive. Annoyingly so. Did you eat? He asked, checking his watch. Yes. What did you eat? Something beige. That's not an answer. He cooked for me. Real food. Balanced meals. He scowled the entire time, muttering about nutrients and hydration like he hadn't been emotionally blackmailed into fatherhood. When I tried to skip lunch, he caught me halfway to the hallway. Lucian. I froze. Sit down, he ordered. I blinked. Or I'll tell your brothers you tried to survive on champagne and spite. I sat. At night, he tucked me into bed. I pretended not to notice. He adjusted the blankets, rearranged my pillows, left the light on low because I'd started hating the dark for reasons I refused to explain. When he thought I was asleep, he lingered in the doorway like a guard posted outside something priceless. Once, I caught him staring at my stomach like it might explode. Stop that, I murmured. He jumped. You're awake. I'm always awake. Sorry. For what? For being angry at you. At all of this. He said quietly. I rolled onto my side, studying him. Okay, fine. I didn't choose this. I know. He swallowed. But I won't let anything happen to you. That was new. The words settled into me slowly, heavy and warm. My brothers, unfortunately, continued being themselves. They argued loudly. They redecorated a room without permission. They planned a wedding I had not agreed to but was apparently attending. One afternoon, Nico suggested a ceremony with at least 6 gun salutes. Evan snapped. Get out, he shouted. Silence crashed through the room. All 3 brothers stared at him. You're stressing him out, he needs rest. Not crime-themed festivities. Evan continued, voice tight with fury. Lucian needs rest. My omega preened smugly. They left without another word. I stared at Evan, stunned. You yelled at them. He exhaled hard. Someone had to. My chest felt tight in a way I didn't recognize yet. He was gentle. Not just with me. With the situation. With the baby. Even with his own fear. One night, as he helped me into bed, I caught his hand. You don't hate me, I said. He hesitated. I was angry, not hate, he admitted. But you're not cruel, you're ridiculous, manipulative, completely unhinged, he said slowly. I smiled proudly. I like when you take care of me, I admitted. He looked startled. It's not caring. I know, I said softly. That night, I lay awake listening to Evan pace the hallway like a nervous guard dog. For the first time, a thought crept in that made my chest ache instead of purr. What if he stayed only because he felt trapped? What if I had won everything except his heart? The idea scared me more than being alone ever had. I curled around my stomach, suddenly protective, suddenly uncertain. Baby trapped, they joked. But I wondered quietly if I was the one who was trapped now. By wanting something real. Chapter 7. Real feelings. I was not supposed to hear it. That part mattered. I was meant to be asleep. Resting. Evan thought I was napping. He had tucked me in himself, frowning like my pillows had personally offended him. Don't go far, I'd mumbled, half asleep. I'll be right outside, he said, like always. Calm, reliable, careful. so I closed my eyes. I did not sleep. Pregnancy had turned my body into a traitor. I was exhausted and wired at the same time, my thoughts skittering like anxious little animals. My omega purred contentedly, but my chest felt wrong. Tight, uneasy, like something important was misaligned. So when Evan's voice drifted down the hallway, low and tense, I listened. I shouldn't have, but I did. I didn't choose this. My breath caught. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't angry. That somehow made it worse. His voice sounded worn thin, like he'd been holding himself together with effort alone. I didn't choose this, he repeated. I didn't ask for any of it. There was a pause. One of my brothers murmured something I couldn't hear. Probably Luca. He always sounded like he was judging you even when whispering. Evan let out a long breath. But I won't abandon him. The words landed like a physical blow. I pressed my hand over my mouth. He won't abandon me. Not because he loved me, because he wouldn't abandon me. Duty, decency, obligation, all the things I had never wanted. My omega whimpered softly, confused and hurt, like it had been promised warmth and found only shelter. I backed away from the door slowly, heart pounding, the earlier glow draining out of me until everything felt sharp and cold. I climbed back into bed and stared at the ceiling, counting my breaths, trying very hard not to cry. Of course he didn't choose this. I had chosen for him. I had mistaken gentleness for devotion, care for desire, staying for wanting. I'd won everything I'd aimed for, and somehow it meant nothing. By the time Evan came back into the room, my decision had already settled in my chest, heavy and terrifying. He stopped short when he saw my face. "Lucien, what's wrong?" he asked carefully. I smiled. "It hurt." "Nothing. I was just thinking," I said lightly. "That's never a good sign," he said, trying for humor and failing. I pushed myself upright. "Come sit." He hesitated, then sat on the edge of the bed like he expected the mattress to give way. "You're angry," he said. "No, I'm scared," I replied. He blinked. "Of what?" "Of being pitted," I said. He flinched. "Oh, so he knew." "I heard you," I said quietly. "In the hallway." He swore under his breath. "Lucien, You don't have to explain, I understand." "Truly." I interrupted. He searched my face. "Then why do you look like you're about to set something on fire?" I let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Because I thought I wanted certainty, control, guarantees." I took a steadying breath. "But I don't want you here because you're a good person who won't abandon me." His jaw tightened. "I'm here because—" "Stop," I said gently. "Please." I slid off the bed and stood. The room tilted. Evan was on his feet instantly, hands hovering near my arms. "Careful." "I've got it," I said, though I let him steady me anyway. "I'm releasing you," I said. The words felt unreal even as I spoke them. He stared. "What?" "No guards, no pressure. You can leave the penthouse. Leave the city. Leave me." I continued, voice shaking now. "Lucien, you're pregnant," he said sharply. "I know. You can't just." "I can, and I am," I said. He looked panicked now, eyes dark. "Is this because of what you heard?" "Because I didn't mean." "I know exactly what you meant, and that's the problem," I said. I stepped back, creating space that hadn't existed between us for months. "If you stay, it has to be real," I said softly. Silence stretched between us. For the first time since I'd met Evan, my brothers were nowhere nearby. No looming presence. No guns. No pressure. Just us. "You don't get to stay because you're decent, or because you'd feel guilty, or because there's a baby," I continued. My voice cracked despite my effort. "You stay because you want me." Evan stared at me like I'd struck him. "You think I don't?" he demanded. "I think you don't know, and I refuse to be someone you endure." I shot back. My omega trembled, frightened by the idea of letting go, but also strangely relieved. I took another step back. "You can leave right now," I repeated. He didn't move. Seconds dragged into minutes. "You're insane." he said finally, voice rough. I smiled sadly. Yes. You kidnapped my life. You manipulated everything. You terrify me. He went on. I know. He paced once, then again, then stopped in front of me. But you're also ridiculous, he said. And dramatic. And unbearably sincere. And he stopped himself. My heart stuttered painfully. I need time to know if this is choice, not pressure, he said at last. I nodded. Take it. He glanced at the door, then back at me. He didn't leave. Not yet. I sank back onto the bed, exhaustion crashing into me now that the adrenaline was gone. Evan hovered, torn, then sat beside me again. Close but careful. Not touching. I'm not promising anything, he said. I'm not asking for promises, I replied. Just honesty. He exhaled shakily. For the first time, his presence felt fragile, earned, uncertain, and terrifyingly hopeful. I curled one hand over my stomach, suddenly aware of how much was still unknown. I had let him go. Now all I could do was wait and see if he would choose to come back on his own. Chapter 8. Choosing Love. Evan didn't leave. I noticed this first because I am extremely observant and also because I spent the entire night staring at the door like it might personally betray me. Morning came. The door remained closed. I lay very still under too many blankets, heart pounding like it had somewhere urgent to be. My Omega, traitor that it was, stayed quiet for once. Waiting, listening, holding its breath the way I was. He didn't leave. That didn't mean he stayed. It meant nothing. I told myself this firmly while my brothers tiptoed around the penthouse like they were afraid of triggering some delicate emotional explosion. Nico tried to bring me breakfast and dropped the tray when I glared at him. I'm not fragile, I snapped. Yes, you are, emotionally, Matteo said calmly. I will throw you off the balcony. See? Fragile, he replied. Luca appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. He's still here. My heart leapt traitorously. That means nothing, I said. Luca raised an eyebrow. You keep saying that. Evan still hadn't spoken to me. He'd slept in the guest room. I knew this because I had walked past it 12 times and listened to him breathe through the door like a completely normal person. By late morning, pretending to rest became unbearable. I shuffled into the living room, wrapped in a robe, hair a disaster, dignity abandoned somewhere around sunrise. Evan was there. He stood by the window, coffee in hand, staring out at the city like it had personally offended him. He wore that jacket he treated like armor. He looked exhausted, not physically, mentally, like someone who hadn't slept because their thoughts wouldn't shut up. We stared at each other. No guards, no guns, no audience. It was terrifying. Morning, I said. Morning, he replied. Silence fell between us, thick and uncertain. I crossed the room and sat on the couch, folding my hands in my lap so he wouldn't see them shake. You can still go, I won't be offended. Much, I said lightly. He snorted despite himself. You'd be extremely offended. Yes, but quietly. I'd suffer with dignity. I admitted. He turned fully toward me then, studying my face like he was seeing me without context for the first time. No contracts, no pressure, no threats humming in the air. You really meant it last night, he said. Yes. You let me go. I shrugged, trying not to look like my heart was lodged in my throat. I didn't want you here if you were only being good. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once, then stopping directly in front of me. That's the problem, I am being good, he said. My chest tightened. And I care about you, he added quickly. I looked up sharply. You're insane, you're manipulative. You don't understand boundaries. You think money solves emotions, he said, voice rough but honest. It does, I said weakly. But, he said, and then he knelt in front of me so we were eye level. You're also earnest in a way I don't know how to deal with. You listen when it matters. You let me say no. And you meant it when you let me go. I swallowed hard. And I didn't leave, he finished. The room seemed to shrink. Why? I whispered. He sighed, resting his forearms on his knees. Because somewhere between the chaos and the pregnancy and you crying over soup that was too hot, I stopped planning an escape. My eyes burned. I started planning a future, not because I had to, because I wanted to see what you'd do next. He said quietly. That was it. I burst into tears immediately. Oh no, Evan said, panicking. Lucian, I didn't mean to. I'm happy. I'm just very bad at it. I sobbed. He laughed softly and reached up, wiping my tears with his thumbs like it was the most natural thing in the world. There you go, he murmured. I leaned forward without thinking. So, you're choosing me? I sniffed. He hesitated. Not long, just enough to make it real. Yes, I am, he said. I kissed him. Not desperately. Not by accident. Not because of heat or fear or obligation. I kissed him because I could. His hands came up to cradle my face, steady and warm, and the kiss deepened slowly, careful, intentional, like we were learning each other without urgency for the first time. There were no interruptions, no weapons, no brothers lurking dramatically nearby, just us. When we pulled back, I rested my forehead against his, smiling through the last of my tears. I'm going to be unbearable, I warned. You already are, he said fondly. The wedding happened 3 months later. It was enormous, excessive, entirely unnecessary. I cried through the vows. Evan squeezed my hands and whispered, "You're doing great," like I was performing a complex task under pressure. The brothers cried more than I did. Nico sobbed openly. Matteo pretended not to. Luca tried to officiate and was removed. When Evan said, "I do," he looked directly at me like there was nowhere else he'd rather be. I believed him, and for the first time in my life, certainty didn't feel forced. Felt chosen. Chapter 9. Ridiculous, happy family. I would like it known, officially and forever, that childbirth is a scam. No one explained it properly. They used words like beautiful and miracle and bonding experience, which are clearly lies invented by people who want grandchildren and refuse to be honest about consequences. It was loud. It was painful. It was deeply undignified. I screamed exactly as much as I felt was appropriate, which was a lot. "This is your fault," I told Evan between contractions. He looked like he might pass out. Pale, sweaty, haunted. "I know. You did this to me," I continued. "I absolutely did not. You claimed me. I remember it very clearly." I snapped. "That still doesn't." "You did it," I added. He swallowed hard and took my hand anyway, squeezing like it was the only thing anchoring him to the planet. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You'd better not," I hissed as another wave hit. "I am producing a baby." "You're doing amazing," he said desperately. "I will decide that." The brothers hovered outside the room like a private security detail guarding the crown jewels. I could hear them arguing through the door. "I should be in there," Luca insisted. "You will get arrested," Matteo replied. "I don't care." Luca tried anyway and was bodily removed by a nurse half his size. "Sir, you cannot bring a gun into the delivery room," she said firmly. "It's sentimental," Luca argued. The door shut. Silence followed. Evan did not let go of my hand. Not once. Even when I crushed his fingers. Even when I yelled things I absolutely refused to apologize for later. Even when I cried because someone said the word push like it was casual and not a personal attack. "I hate you," I told him weakly at one point. "I love you too," he said without hesitation. That startled me enough that I almost laughed. When it was finally over, when the noise faded and the pain dulled and the world narrowed to something very small and warm placed against my chest, I forgot how to breathe. Our son blinked up at me, red-faced and furious about existence. "Oh," I whispered. Evan made a broken sound behind me that might have been a laugh or a sob or both. "He's loud," I said faintly. "He's perfect," Evan replied, voice wrecked. I turned my head and really looked at him. He was smiling like he'd won something he hadn't known he was allowed to want. His eyes were wet. His shoulders shook when he exhaled. He looked open, unarmored. Mine not because of law or pressure, but because he chose to be here. I handed him the baby carefully. Evan froze. Support the head, I instructed weakly. I'm supporting everything, he said urgently. The baby wrapped his tiny fingers around Evan's with shocking strength. Evan laughed, startled and breathless. Oh my God! I watched him fall in love in real time. It was extremely satisfying. Life after that became loud. Our son screamed. I screamed back occasionally. Evan learned how to function on no sleep and pure devotion. The brothers became uncles, which was a terrifying development. Nico learned how to warm bottles and sang off-key lullabies. Matteo read parenting books like it was a hostile corporate acquisition. Luca stood guard during nap time like the baby was a state secret. This is unnecessary, Evan told them. He's small. Threats come in all sizes, Luca said seriously. Evan pinched the bridge of his nose. I married into a cult. You love us, I said, bouncing the baby gently. He sighed, resigned. I love you. Some nights were hard. The baby cried. I cried. Evan paced the floor, whispering reassurances to both of us like a man trying to keep the universe from cracking open. One night, long after the baby finally fell asleep between us, Evan leaned over and pressed a kiss to my temple. You okay? He whispered. I nodded. Tired. Happy. Terrified. Same, he said. I turned my head, catching his lips with mine. The kiss wasn't rushed. It never was anymore. It was warm and familiar, his mouth fitting to mine like muscle memory rewritten with tenderness. His hand slid to my jaw, thumb brushing gently over my cheek like he was checking I was real. I deepened the kiss slowly, careful not to wake the baby, letting it linger, letting it say everything we didn't have time to put into words. Gratitude, relief, want, choice. He smiled against my mouth when we finally pulled back. You still dramatic? He murmured. Unbearably, I replied. Good, I'd be disappointed otherwise, he said softly. We were not perfect. I was dramatic. Evan was stubborn. The baby had very strong opinions. Our household ran on love, caffeine, and very expensive chaos. But at night, when Evan tucked me into bed, when our son slept warm and heavy between us, when Evan's hand found mine without thinking and squeezed, I knew I got everything I wanted. Not because I took it, because it stayed. And that was better than any victory I'd ever planned.